A good belt is an extremely valuable tool and really a no-brainer when training for strength. Today I'm going to teach you how to use this thing correctly. Our backs are essentially a column of vertebral segments that need to be held rigid to work as an effective force transmitter when we're training for strength. What this means is that the force produced by the hips and legs need to be transferred to the barbell via that rigid segment, and a belt can greatly enhance the effectiveness of this process. Most of us, unfortunately, have probably seen belts like this with a wider back and a thinner front in some commercial gyms. And what this is an example of the designer and the user of the belt not understanding what the belt is for and how it's actually used. People mistakenly have the idea that the support for the back comes from the wider back on the belt itself, which is of course not true. The support from the back actually comes from the contraction of the abdominals against a non-deformable surface. And the belt needs to be uniformly wide around to work better. If you're training and you happen to have one of these, do yourself a favor, find the nearest garbage can and throw it away. Because everyone's different, there are an array of sizes of belts depending on the height and anthropometrists and lifters. We have 4-inch belts, 3-inch belts, 2.5-inch belts, and even 2-inch belts for those who have not that much space between the ribs and their hips. Now, as a taller lifter, I of course have a 4-inch belt. Now this thing is made by Dominion Strength. If you have a chance to get one of these, get them. I think they're the best belts in the industry. This thing, when used correctly, will make my job of squatting and pressing and benching and deadlifting a whole lot easier. Let me show you how it works. The first thing to understand is to think of your torso as, what we'd like to say, like a can of Coke or a can of beer. A rigid cylinder. When it's sealed and closed, it does a great job of not losing its shape. As soon as you pop that lid and take some of the liquid out, it can deform and bend. And the same is true with your torso. My job when I'm training and producing force is to take a big breath of air and get this segment as tight as I can get it. Now, when my abdominals can contract against a non-deformable surface like the belt, I can contract harder because there's resistance. The harder I contract, the tighter I can get, the more rigid the back stays, and thus the more force I can produce when moving the barbell. The belt is going to want to sit between your floating rib and the top of your hip pointer. It's going to want to settle exactly in that spot. Now we want to get this thing tight enough to where when I'm finished with my set, I'm kind of in a rush to take it off. Not so loose that it's going to move around when I'm moving, and also not so tight that I can't breathe. So a good way to check is to take a couple fingers and put it down the front of the belt, contract against it, and feel how tight that gets. You should be in pretty good position if it's like this. Now, once this thing is on, it's important to remember that this is a piece of leather with suede on top. It doesn't do anything unless you breathe correctly. Now, we want to take a big breath of air, of course, and use the Valsalva maneuver, which is a forceful exhalation against a closed glottis, which is going to have our abdominals contract against the belt. So what we don't want to do is take a big breath and push out against the belt by shoving our gut out, or conversely, taking a big breath and sucking our stomach in like we're trying to make it smaller. I want to take as much air as I can get, and I want to forcefully exhale against my closed throat. And when I do that, my abdominals are going to contract against the resistance of the belt. And because the belt is not going to move or deform, and it's producing a wall that I can't push any harder against, I can contract harder. So just gonna take a big breath. I'm gonna squeeze down and try to push tight against the belt to produce a whole bunch more force than I could otherwise without the belt on. We hope this helps. If you'd like to learn how the barbell can transform your body and literally change your life, there's no better place to be than right here with us at Brussels Barbell. Strength matters. Find yours with us.